Hello, everybody. I know there's only 3 of you out there so far, but Jeff's hopefully sharing the link around. If you know anyone who doesn't have the link, I'm so sorry about before. We lost our reception. Anyway, I'm back. Everyone's coming back in. So I'm going to just, look, my poor little ice cube, my beautiful ice sphere has melted. And I haven't had any gin yet. Yay! Hi, Shell. Kati, welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, dear. How sad. Bloody technology never works when you want it to. Okay. While everyone's logging back in, hi again, everyone. While everyone's logging back in, I'm going to talk to you about how I'm making my gin. Sorry, Leon and Trace. Have a glass of wine. So, the most important things, excellent, Paul, have another gin. It'll just make it all work better. So I'm going to make myself a gin and tonic because that's very stressful. I know there's only 8 of you at the moment. 9, you're all coming back slowly. I don't know if Jeff wants to. Jeff, I don't know if you want to get on MailChimp for the people who maybe are waiting for a link from MailChimp. Anyway, I'll leave that up to you now. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. So, a couple of things about gin as I make myself a gin. Hi, thanks, Jeff. Thank you so much. You're a superstar. I'll buy you a gin afterwards. Hi, Sam. Hi, Nina. Hi, Paul. Excellent to see you all. Okay, Balcombe Gin. This is my gin of choice for tonight. Balcombe Coastal Gin, made by our friend Barney Flanders. And I'm going to tell you about how gin's made and all of that sort of stuff in a minute, but I really need a drink right now. So I like to use, since I went to the Bombay Sapphire distillery in the UK, they have glasses sort of like this, a little bit chunkier, but this sort of shape. Hi, Kay, welcome back. And I thought, well, I don't need to buy more glasses, but the Pinot glass works really well for a gin glass. You've just got to be careful because it's very easy if you're free pouring to just have an enormous gin and tonic that's going to knock you out before you even get to dinner. So when I'm using these glasses, I like to use my little jigger, which gives me 30 mils of gin, but I like a double. So that's 60 mils of gin. Whoop. Bit drippy. Hi, Peter and Sue. Good to see you. Hi, Zach and Jack. Great to see you back. Welcome back. So the Balcombe Gin is made locally on the Mornington Peninsula. I'll talk a bit about what makes it special in a minute. I need to get this gin in. So that's a double shot of gin and an ice block. Tonic is the next thing that we need. Now, Fever Tree is what I have here. I have the Mediterranean tonic, which is a little bit sweeter and a little bit lighter. It's nice with vodka, but it works very well with a dried gin style. But the premium Indian tonic water with the yellow label is the one I prefer. It's a bit more savoury, and I think it works really well with the Balcombe Gin. And in Spain, when you go out for a gin and tonic, they will. This is a warning, but also it's a very nice way to behave. They will actually free pour. Hi, Craig. They will free pour your gin from the bottle until you tell them to stop. Thank you, Kieran. And so you have to tell them to stop, and then they'll give you the tonic, and you put as much or as little tonic in as you like. So for me, for about 60 mils of gin, which is that much in the bottom of that glass, I'll use the whole bottle of tonic because it's quite nice to put maybe half or a third of the bottle of tonic in and then just taste it. There, that's a little bit too much spirit, and I'm not getting to smell the perfume. So I'm going to put the rest of my tonic in. There we go. Give it a little swizzle. Now, I've got a whole heap of cool things to add as garnish. Now, garnishing a gin and tonic has become high art in bars, and while we haven't been able to go out to bars in Melbourne, yay, we're now allowed to go out to bars again if there's only 9 other people in the bar. They'll go crazy and they'll say for every different gin, and you have to have a different type of tonic, and you have to have different garnishes. The dogs have just got back from their walk, and you have to match your garnishes to the gin and the tonic. It all gets very complicated. And often you'll end up with a drink, and I've seen this at various bars and restaurants that I've been to, where there's so many things floating around in there. You have to strain the coriander seeds and the pink peppercorns and the things through your teeth, and I find that a little bit annoying. Craig, my tonic bottle is 200 mils. So 200 mils of tonic to about 60 mils of gin, I think, is really good. Karen, it's very exciting to go out and drink gin in Melbourne. Also nice to do it at home. So, but that looks a bit boring with no garnishes. So I like to garnish. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I like to garnish with some citrus, and the citrus season has been amazing. We've got oranges, we've got lemons, we've got limes. I know that Deb and Rob have also got quite a lot of citruses. Are you back again, Deb and Rob? It would be nice to know which citrus you decide to put in there. You can cut up your citrus however you like, and a really good tip is if you've got a lemon or a lime or hi Rob, is that the gin talking? Yoop. You can cut up your citrus when it's fresh, and then you can stick it in a freezer bag and stick it in the freezer. So you can cut it into lime rounds like that. That's a nice lime round. Or if you're sticking it in the freezer, I like to cut it into chunks. You cut it into chunks like that, and then you freeze them, and they double as ice blocks and your citrus fruit addition. It's quite good. And the chunky bits in the glass look really good. Rob has mentioned, excuse me, got the sneezes now. Kumquats. Kumquats are awesome in gin and tonic, and I'm going to do that. You just pull them off the tree. There's a little bit of a hole in there. You stick your thumb in there. Hi, Rika, how you going? Indian versus Mediterranean tonic. We're talking about that a little bit. I think that the Mediterranean tonic's a bit sweeter. I really like the florals in it. The Indian tonic I've chosen tonight because I felt like something a bit drier and a bit fresher for tonight. That's my gin and tonic with a kumquat that I've split with my thumb in there. But you don't have to stop there, because gin is basically vodka that's flavoured with various herbs and spices and citrus fruit. And so a lot of people will say, well, if you've got some nice herbs in the garden, you can chuck them in your gin and tonic. And I've got some rosemary from the garden. I've also got some wild fennel from the garden. And I'm going to put rosemary in mine because I like that little extra smell and flavour. So that's my gin and tonic for tonight. Cheers. That's better. So, Rika, I think with the tonics and with Fever Tree, they've got like a heap of different tonics. Oh, you can also pop a little nasturtium in there too. I'm going to make a gin and tonic for Jill and Richard with some different garnishes and some different things. So I'm going to keep making gin and tonics while I talk. They're not all for me, I promise. So I think for Richard can have some lime in his and a bit of fennel. I think would be nice. There we go. It's his ice block. Now these round ice blocks are fabulous. They're good fun. If you're using a Pinot glass, just slide them in rather than dropping them in, because you don't want it dropping through the glass out the other side, which is the only problem with using these Pinot glasses for gin and tonics. Jill's ice block going in there. Got very clean hands. A nasturtium for Jill because she likes her flowers. Make sure there are no critters on there. There we go, nasturtium. And Jill can also have a kumquat because it's oranges and oranges. There we go for Jill. Richard can have another chunk of lime. Jill, would you like some rosemary or some fennel in your gin and tonic?
Oh, I think I prefer rosemary.
Rosemary for Jill. She's a woman of taste. Richard can have a flower in his too, and I'll have a flower in mine because I got 3 flowers. So there we go. We float that in there.
Could you put rose petals in it?
You could put rose petals in it. You can put anything that's edible in your gin and tonic. I was just saying to these guys that if you put like coriander seeds or pink peppercorns, they get stuck in your teeth. So people can't hear you if you're going to stand over there and talk. So you have to come and join me. Or Jill, would you like Plymouth gin, Gordon's gin, or Balcombe Coastal gin? Balcombe Coastal gin. We're a bit addicted to this. So Jill is the queen of perfect timing, Shell. She Jill and Richard missed all of the drama. They've got no idea that we haven't been able to talk to each other for the last 15 minutes and that we had to start a new thing. Richard, you'll have some Balcombe gin as well? Yep. Excellent. Go Barney. Right. So, and Jill's going to have the Mediterranean tonic because I know she likes that. Don't you, Jill?
I do.
Yes.
Very nice.
The other thing you can do is get a little lemon and a little knife and just, instead of cutting a round of the fruit, just cut some of the peel off. This is fancy bar person tricks. If you're a fancy bar person, you probably have a better piece than that. But I can already smell the lemon. I can already smell the lemon oils from the skin. So what you want to do is just twist it in on itself over the top of the glass, and you can get those lemon oils going into the glass. So Richard's got lemon and lime in his. Jill's having some Mediterranean tonic. A little bit more sweetness for Jill. Yeah, Penny. So Penny, I was talking before we got cut off before. So this is Jill's. Doesn't that look lovely? That's Jill's gin and tonic. I'll give that to Richard to give to Jill. Mm. Yeah, and Richard's gin and tonic. Yours has got a few different things in it, Dad. You've got a bit of fennel. You've got fennel and you've got lemon and you've got lime and you've got a nasturtium as well. Mm-hmm. And Richard's getting the what's that? The Indian tonic water. Oh, I've got a cat underneath me now. Oh, it's all going on. There you go, Richard. Cheers. All right, that's got rid of the thirsty parents for a moment. Peter and Sue, can I please have? Yes, certainly, Peter and Sue. I'll just pass it through the computer. Look at that. I've got to say, that flower, that nasturtium looks absolutely beautiful on top of there. And you can eat it. It'll bring a slightly peppery character to the, a little bit of pepperiness to the, a little tonic. And Richard, Alison would like you to play the guitar a little bit. Oh, no. A man ran a lemon around the glass, filled it with ice, a little tonic, and then played me guitar. How delightful. Alison, that sounds gorgeous. If you're not careful, Richard will get his guitar out and play it for us, and then we'll be here all night. Cheers to gin and tonic. It just shows that we don't have to drink wine all the time. So what was I saying? I've gone off in all too many different directions all at once. So Penny, we were talking about the difference between gin and vodka, and in fact they both start life these days, in modern days, in exactly the same way. Go for it, Kay. Have a refill. Go, just 2 gin and tonics, or gin and, I think you're having gin and ginger beer, I think you said. So that'll be that's another thing. And it's all good. You can make it as exciting or as boring as you like, this mixing of cocktails. So gin and vodka are both exactly the same thing. They're high rectified neutral spirit. Vodka gets then bottled like that. It gets watered down usually to about 45%, which is, I think, the level that we're allowed to, the highest level of spirits we're allowed to have in Australia. I'm just looking at what the 41% is the Garish East, the Balcombe Coastal Gin. So that's probably, I think 45% is the proof that you get when you buy spirits duty free, sort of the international duty free thing. But let's say 40 to 45%. They'll water it down with distilled water for vodka, and they'll bottle it, and it's all about the purity and the lack of flavour and the texture. Vodka's fantastic if you like something that doesn't have any real flavour of its own, and people who love vodka will tell me that I'm wrong, that it does have a flavour, it's just more subtle. But it also mixes really well with lots of things, and it takes on the flavours of what you're mixing it with. Navy strength, yes, Renee. So Navy strength gin will be higher because it meant that the whole point of Navy strength gin is that they would pack it on ships for the sailors, and if it's higher alcohol, you don't need to take as much with you for them to get the same amount of alcohol into their blood system. So Navy strength, overproof, all of those things are a bit higher. They tend to get up to 57, maybe 60%, but above that, then it starts getting a bit dodgy. And the higher the alcohol, over 41%, the higher the tax on it. So Navy strength gin will be more expensive than regular gin because the higher alcohol attracts a higher tax bracket. So what they do with gin, instead of letting it be, and Jeff, I will answer your question. Karen, I'll answer your question in just a moment. Antipodes 45%. Rika, it'd be interesting to know what the botanicals are. So the flavours that we get in gin is all down to the botanicals. And what that means is that once you get your high rectified, high alcohol spirit, that's 97%, they then, to make quality gin, and you can make cheap gin just by adding flavours, adding essential oils, basically mixing it all up. And that's when you get your really El Cheapo gin. And that's why it doesn't really the flavours are not well integrated into the gin. But quality gin is re-distilled through the aromats or the botanicals. So what they'll tend to use, so there are a couple of botanicals that are essential to gin, and that is juniper berries, coriander, but juniper is the number one. And you'll see on some labels of classic gin like Gordon's, it'll be called London Dry Gin. And there's a stipulation of how much juniper London Dry Gin is supposed to have and what other botanicals are allowed to be used for London Dry Gin. And that'll be things like coriander seed, sometimes some, there's a whole lot of things. If anyone's got Bombay Sapphire, it actually lists all the things that they put into. There's angelica root they'll put in, lots of very traditional spices and herbs, but also a lot of the gins, something like Tanqueray, for example, will have oranges and lemons in the kettle as they distill it through, so it picks up those oranges and lemons essential oils from the skins. Tank 10, on the other hand, which is Tanqueray's more expensive, fancier gin, has got lots of grapefruit in it, which gives it more of that grapefruity citrus flavour. So the distinguishing factor of gin is what other aromats are put into the distiller, into the kettle for it to be distilled through, to pull those flavours through, along with the juniper. Juniper and coriander is actually absolutely what makes it gin, Kieran. So, but there's two different types of traditional English gins. There's the London Dry Gin and there's Plymouth Gin. And I believe that London Dry Gin has to have juniper and coriander in it. And I think Plymouth Gin only has to have juniper in it, but I'm not sure. I meant to do my homework and I ran out of time on that one. So you can, but if you Google it, that'll be the easiest thing to find out in the world. So just on the London Dry Gin, I think, Gordon's is a really good example, and they're a really a quality classic gin brand that's now making a wet spot on the table, so I just put it down on the ground. But really lovely gin. It's not, yes, Angela, the trendy hipster Aussie gins should all have juniper. Now, the problem is that in Australia, we don't have any rules that people have to stick by. So as soon as I say, yes, all the trendy hipster Aussie gins have to have juniper, someone will find one that doesn't. Someone will go, oh, this one doesn't have juniper in it. But then it's not really gin. As Kieran says, it's really a flavoured vodka or an akavit or something like that. So gin, the name gin comes from the Dutch name Geneva, which is the name for juniper berries. So that's what the name of it actually defines what it is. The other English one that I really like is Plymouth Gin, and I buy that usually when I'm coming through duty free when I've been overseas, because it's just got some really lovely flavours, and it makes a beautiful gin and tonic. All of these Aussie gins will have different focuses. So the Balcombe Coastal Gin, the story is that it's juniper and coriander. So that's the base of the spices, but then they go foraging for coastal flavours. So they'll get saltbush and seaweed and things that they find along the coast, and they'll use those in the distillation. The cat. Which cat is that? Hello, Jack. He's watching the birds out the window. He hasn't actually come to say hello, but he is watching there he is. He's saying hello now. A lot of Brits have become sniffy about Gordon's, and it's kind of like, what's it like? I was going to say it's a bit like VB, but it's not, because it's much better than VB. But a lot of people, if you come back to Gordon's after tasting a lot of the fancy, fancy schmancy, overworked little, everybody in the world's making their own gin these days, the Gordon's has got a lovely cleanness, a lovely freshness, and it's just really beautiful. It makes a terrific martini as well, Gordon's, because it's clean and dry. What I look for, Penfold's Bin 28. Thank you, Jeff. That's a good analogy. What I look for in a gin, if I'm making a gin and tonic, is a dryness and a freshness. I like a citrusy coastal style of gin, which is why I like the Balcombe. There's a few other gins out there that I think are really lovely. I think I said to you on the email on Monday, the Four Pillars gin is really good. I actually like the Navy Strength better than the regular, because it's got finger lime in it, which I think is a lovely indigenous ingredient, which comes out very, very nicely in the flavour of the gin. Shell, I haven't had the Hurdle Creek, so I'll have a look at whereabouts is that from. Is it Hurdle Creek? Where's that? The amazing thing is that everyone's making gin now, and there's a very good reason for that. Millewa, oh, good. I'll check it out. I'll keep an eye out for it. Mountain gin from Mount Macedon. Karen, I haven't tasted that either, because there's so many gins out there, and there's a reason for that. Because gin is yes, indeed. These days, instead of chucking out grape must after wine has been, the grape skins that you press the juice or the wine off, we used to just chuck it out, or people would feed it to cows. There've been a couple of distillers who have been smart enough to say, bring us your grape must and we'll turn it into rectified high alcohol spirit. And then they sell that spirit to anybody who wants to. So people are not distilling their own spirit. It's very expensive to get a license to distill this sort of spirit, and it's quite hard work. So now there's a lot of this high alcohol spirit available in the marketplace. And because people are getting into gin, and because everyone's interested in different aromas and flavours, there are a lot of people who've jumped on board the whole gin revolution, because they don't have to distill their own spirit. They just have to buy some spirit, add their flavours, either with adding them in as essential oils, or if they've got a still that they can use to distill that gin through. Kate, I haven't tasted the original gin company's gin from Somerville, but Somerville seems to have everything these days, as Jeremy will keep telling us. They've got the best butcher in the world. They've got two of the best breweries in the world. They've got 2 coffee roasters. They've got the original gin company there. Why would you go anywhere except for Somerville, really? I hope you're watching, Jeremy. Jeremy's got a birthday dinner to prepare. So happy birthday, Karis, by the way, if you guys are watching. And as Angela says, there's now a hand sanitizer market. All the gin producers are now making their own hand sanitizer, which is fantastic. It's great, isn't it, Rob? The old kumquats. And you can just, if you want to chuck them in a freezer bag and chuck them in the freezer, then just bring them out and let them defrost enough that you can get your thumb into it and pull it in half, stick it in your gin and tonic. You've got a cooling agent and a flavouring agent all at the same time. So I think I've run out of puff now. The Prodigal coffee is very good. I think we've got Prodigal coffee as well. I get confused because my neighbour across the road has one of the coffee roasteries, and we use the other coffee from Somerville here at Moorooduc. So it's slightly embarrassing, and I just forget what both of them are called. But yes, Somerville is everything to everyone. So what else was I going to tell you about gin? With all the excitement, I've kind of lost my track of thought. Oh, that's what I was going to say. As well as all of these classic dry gins that go really well with tonic, then you have other flavoured gins like sloe gin and other sweet gins. That Four Pillars does a gin that they call Bloody Shiraz gin, which is gin that's been aged in Shiraz barrels, and they actually, thank you, Jeff, it sweetens the gin up, so it makes it a sort of a sipping gin. So people talk about sipping gins and mixing gins. I like gin that tastes good in a gin and tonic. I do like an occasional martini, which we might talk about another day. But things like the Bloody Shiraz gin are just lovely as a post dinner drink, or on ice on the veranda on a hot summer's afternoon. Those sort of things are great. Sam and Rob, I need to buy myself a finger lime tree. I hear they are very spiky, but our friend Hugh Robinson of Robinson Vineyard has a finger lime, and he got a crop off it this year. I think for the first time. It's the first time he's given us some finger limes anyway, and they're fabulous. So hang on in there. They take a little while. They take a few years to produce fruit. Jeff asked me about mixes. Now, what did you ask me about mixes? Other things besides tonic in gin. So if my lime tree is spiky too, and a kaffir lime tree also is spiky. And kaffir lime leaves are very good, kind of shredded into a gin and tonic, particularly the Monsoon gin from the guys down in Mornington. So I personally, Jeff, don't really like mixing my gin with other things, but that doesn't mean that you can't. I know a lot of people who like gin and soda, which I find the thing I love about tonic and gin is that gin has all these perfume and florals and spices and all sorts of lovely gin aromas. And then tonic's actually not very good for people who are on a diet because it's got lots of sugar in it, unfortunately, because it's also got the key ingredient, which is quinine, which is incredibly bitter. The Raj in India used to say that they drank gin and tonics for the quinine to keep the mosquitoes away, so that they didn't get mosquito-borne illnesses like malaria and dengue fever. Apparently, you have to consume much more quinine than you get in a classic gin and tonic for it to have any effect against mosquitoes. And my next door neighbours and I have, during the lockdown, we've been able to have nice little socially isolated drinks sitting in our front driveways, and I can attest to the fact that even if I'm drinking a gin with lots of quinine in it, the mosquitoes still come and bite me. So I'm obviously not doing very well. Nick says that quinine is good for cramping. Thank you, Nick. Good, excellent. Well, whatever it's good for, it's bloody delicious. And the reason that fever tree is called fever tree is because quinine comes from the bark of the trees that are known colloquially as fever trees. And anyone who read the Jungle Books and the Just So stories, particularly written by Rudyard Kipling, who it has turned out recently was a bit of a nasty bastard, but wrote beautiful books. In the Just So stories, they talk about the great grey, greasy Limpopo River all hung about with fever trees. And the fever trees are the bark of the fever trees give us quinine. So it's one of my loveliest things. Zach and Jack, I think you just need to drink more gin and tonics to keep the mosquitoes away. There is no sugar tonic, Kay, and I would rather just drink my gin straight than have no sugar tonic, because it's just revolting. It's full of saccharin, and saccharin, as well as being sweet, is also very bitter. So it brings out, Polly, shush, I'm talking to my friends on the computer. Saccharin is bitter as well as sweet, and so it makes the quinine more bitter. It's just awful. So I just say, enjoy your gin and tonic, have a bit more gin in it, a bit less tonic if you're worried about the sort of the sugar levels of your tonic, and maybe just have one or two rather than 3 or 4 or 5. Hendrix has many recipes. And I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with mixing gin with other things besides tonic, but it's my personal preference is a gin and tonic or a gin cocktail, like a martini, or I actually made a good one. It was called a honeybee, and it was gin and lemon juice and honey that you're supposed to shake on ice. But unfortunately, my honey I worked out afterwards, I think you need to dissolve the honey in the lemon juice before you add it to the gin and the ice, because my honey solidified into little candy balls of honey. And so I had to kind of eat those and then drink the drink, which wasn't sweetened as a result. Reggie is out. He's up on the balcony because Deb, it's getting lighter. He goes to bed later now. He only goes to bed when the sunshine goes away. But yeah, I think a lot of people like to mix their gin with whatever they like. And no, Jeff, it doesn't mean that you will be frowned upon in gin circles. It just shows that you're an individual and you know what you like, and you should be celebrated for that. I think a bit of grapefruit juice a little bit of pink grapefruit juice is delicious. But I like to mix my pink grapefruit juice with Campari. So there you go. Kay, you have mixed gins. What do you mean by that? They're pre-mixed? Or pre-mixed with other things? Soda and kumquat. And Jeff, you and I talked about this. That he is special, isn't he, Rob? Keep giving him a hard time, Kieran. I love it. I love it. You mixed gins with each other, Kate. That's great. Yeah. 4 Pillars, Bloody Shiraz, and Orient Gin from Bass and Flinders, is it? Awesome. Very good. So, yeah, I mean, what you drink with your gin is limited only to your own imagination. One of the things that I thought about during lockdown, which I probably very luckily for my liver that I didn't decide to pursue with too much excitement, was I found my grandfather's old cocktail book that he gave to me a long time ago. It's all falling apart. It's been sticky taped together. It's wonderful. And it was written in the 1950s. And it's got each chapter for different major spirits and then some other things. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to make a different cocktail every night and work my way through the book? And I did a few, and I thought maybe once a week would be a good idea. And so I have been playing around with cocktails maybe once a week, but I come back to my gin and tonic because it's a lot of cocktails are either so fruity that you can't taste the alcohol, which for me is a problem because I drink them too fast, or they're not fruity and they're mostly alcohol, like a martini or a Hemingway daiquiri, which is something I've been playing around with, which we can talk about another time, or an old-fashioned. They're lovely, but you're getting a very big whack of alcohol in quite a small drink. And so, again, it's easy to overdo it with a cocktail that is so high in alcohol or has so much spirits in it. Whereas a gin and tonic, we've put some gin in the bottom, we've put non-alcoholic tonic in the top. It's brought it down. I haven't worked out the percentage, but it's brought the alcohol down to a really good place. So it's a long drink. It's a cool drink when it's on ice, and it's a very refreshing drink because it's got that sweetness and bitterness. It's got all the flavours of a delicious gin. And I think that if you pick a good gin and a good tonic, and I did say in my email on Monday to avoid Schweppes. Now, there's nothing wrong with Schweppes, but it is a lot sweeter than a lot of the more modern tonics, and I find it a little bit jarring for me now. But if it's a choice of a gin and tonic with Schweppes with a nice gin or not, then I'll be very happy to do that. Also, yeah, Kieran, I think it is surprising in a way that less people drink vodka, but if you look at there's been quite a lot of research about the trends of drinking spirits, and vodka and gin seem to take it in turns in popularity. If you think back to the 80s, everyone was drinking vodka and gin was very unfashionable. You come through to the 90s and vodka became a little bit less popular and gin became a bit more popular. In the noughties, a lot of barmen got really excited about vodka again because it doesn't have the flavour and you can add flavour with what you're mixing with it. Whereas now from 2010 to now, gin has had a real resurgence because you've had these very clever tonic producers, you've had these very clever gin producers who are making special. Yes, Kieran, I think that's one of the reasons that I can't, Karen, I think that's one of the reasons I can't really talk in too favourable terms about vodka, because it hurt me a couple of times in younger years and I just can't go back. Can't possibly go back. But gin is currently very, very popular. And I say long live gin because I think it's delicious. I think it's very, very refreshing, very delicious. There's probably heaps more. Yes, Shell, I'm sorry that you hurt yourself with tequila, because tequila is also a really fantastic spirit. Margaritas, Oaxacan old fashions, really great. But yes, we probably need to leave that for another day. And yeah, Nina, Sex and the City brought back vodka in the Cosmopolitan. So maybe vodka will have its go again in the next 10 years. I don't know. I'll keep drinking gin and tonic, and I don't really care what anybody else does because it's a free world. Anyway, I know that we had a big break at the beginning of this. I don't know if anyone's got any other questions or comments, but I've noticed that it's nearly 7 o'clock, so I should probably sign off and just say thank you so much for joining me for a gin and tonic. It's been delightful. And yes, a Negroni is a fantastic. Before I say goodbye, next week, 2011 Robinson Pinot Noir, a very controversial wine, a very controversial vintage. I'm very excited to be drinking it with you next week. If you haven't got your pack number 7 yet, then you've still got time to order it. I'll be doing deliveries again next Wednesday. Have a fantastic cup weekend. Shell, was it Shell? No, it was Sam about sloe gin. Sloe gin is basically gin that has had sloe plums, which are little dark wild plums that they find in England, and they soak the plums in the gin, and the flavour of the gin, the flavour of the plums infuses into the gins as well as the sweetness of the plums. So it's kind of a flavoured gin, which is great. Yes, I'm sorry about the IT issues tonight. We salvaged it in the end. It's awesome to see you all again. Yay for freedom. We didn't actually get around to that because of all the stress. Yay to freedom. Opening up slowly. Cellar doors not opening up quite yet, but keep an eye on that. And we will have our Tasting with Kate live drinking drinks at some stage in the future. It's been lovely to see you. Leon and Trace, thank you so much. It's been a delight spending Thursday evening with you guys. And yay for Richmond. Yes, Rob. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you're loving the slow, Samantha. It's a delicious, different gin option. So cheers. Thanks, everyone, for persevering. Thank you for your patience. It's been, as always, an absolute pleasure.